Well, the Coronavirus Relief Act officially signed into law tonight, but its passage on the House of Representatives on the floor there was not without drama. Correspondent Leland Vitter tells us about a couple of lawmakers who said they wanted to stand on principle and found themselves taking heat from both the left and right. Good evening, Leland.
Yeah, principle was an unpopular place to be in Washington. Shannon, tonight, John Kerry and President Trump found something to agree on. That is not an easy task. Shocking, even. They both objected, and with harsh words, to a Kentucky congressman who simply wanted debate about the pork in this bailout plan and a discussion of how we are going to pay the $2 trillion price tag.
I came here to make sure our republic doesn't die by unanimous consent in an empty chamber, and I request a recorded vote.
With that, Thomas Massie of Kentucky became the most criticized man in Congress for the moment. Susan Wild tweeted, "I've been sheltering at home in PA 7 for 2 weeks, but now I'm in the Capitol because you forced this. I'm holding you directly responsible if I test positive after this." Wild is a Democrat. President Trump called Massie a, quote, third-rate grandstander and tweeted he should be thrown out of the Republican Party. John Kerry went further on Twitter. Breaking news, Congressman Massie is tested positive for being an a-hole.
People had to come back. Just no reason for it. So John Kerry made a little joke out of it, and I agreed with his joke, and I said I never knew he had that kind of a personality, but we actually put it up, and he was right.
A little of the criticism centered around Massie's objections listed in an 11-tweet thread. Although Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez seemed to agree with Massie that the bailout is bad, albeit for different reasons.
We have to go into this vote eyes wide open. What did the Senate majority fight for? One of the largest corporate bailouts with as few strings as possible in American history. Shameful. There should be shame about what was fought for in this bill and the choices that we have to make.
Massie's fellow members, Republicans and Democrats alike, were upset they had to come back to Washington and vote.
That it's an act of vanity and selfishness that goes beyond comprehension.
Look, I think that what we need to be focused on today is bipartisanship.
And after all of that, Massie didn't even get the vote he wanted. House leadership on both sides allowed for some parliamentary jiu-jitsu in passing the bill, so we the people still have no idea, Shannon, who in the people's house voted today to spend $2 trillion of our dollars.
All right, Leland. Thank you very much. So House leadership was able to block Congressman Massie's plans to force that recorded vote, but just the fact that he floated the plan meant that hundreds of his colleagues were forced to return to Washington, and many of them from both sides of the aisle let him know that in the midst of the COVID-19 situation, they were not happy about that. So, talking exclusively to Fox News at Night right now about why he did what he did, the Republican congressman from Kentucky joins us live. Congressman Massie, good to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Shannon. I guess I was able to force him to come to work, but I couldn't force him to work. Ultimately, they came to D.C., but they decided not to vote on it at all, and that's unfortunate because I didn't delay the vote at all. I think that's what the president was upset with. He didn't understand the process that I was proposing. You know, Tuesday, the Senate was here and they were voting, and the House leadership, Pelosi and McCarthy, said, you know what, let's just pass this on a unanimous consent and tell everybody to stay home, don't bother coming to Congress. The problem with that, Shannon, is this is the third coronavirus bill. By the way, I voted for the first one. This is the third one. Nancy Pelosi already has a fourth one planned. If you watch the debate, Democrats were talking about what they're going to put in the fourth bill. But, you know, if we get in this habit of just passing bills and nobody even comes to work and they pass, that's really dangerous. That's paving the road for Pelosi.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but you know, these are unique circumstances, and there were people who thought it was dangerous to bring everybody back in, and one of them was one of your Republican colleagues. Peter King said this in a tweet: House passes pandemic emergency bill, victory for America. Large number of Congress members had to be in the House chamber and risk infection to themselves and others because of one arrogant member. If anyone gets infected, blood is on Rep. Thomas Massie's hands. How do you respond?
That's a pretty strong statement. I mean, here, think about the arrogance of these congressmen. They're telling the truckers to keep driving so that their grocery stores will have groceries. They're telling the UPS drivers to keep bringing their Amazon packages. They're telling the bagger at the grocery store to keep bagging those groceries. But these congressmen make $174,000 a year. They've got the best health care that you can buy these days right now. And they're telling people that that the congressmen need to stay home, but everybody else needs to work for them. I think that's the wrong message, but that really gives you a glimpse into how some of these people in Washington, D.C. think.
Okay, you said that you were concerned. What you wanted was a recorded vote where everybody would have to say, Massey, aye or no. Everybody would have to go through this process. The House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, says there was an appropriate vote. Here is his take on this.
We do have everybody on the record. You know what we were able to do? We didn't pass it with unanimous consent. I would never agree to that. But we were able to have 3 hours of debate. We had a voice vote. For those who weren't able to make it, they could actually put across the desk how they would stand on the bill.
Okay, so there was some debate there. He says he wouldn't have gone for a unanimous consent bill. So what didn't you get that you wanted today?
Well, first of all, they had 4 hours of debate, and they couldn't find 1 minute to allow me to debate. That's because they don't want to hear the truth. If this bill is such a great bill, why not have everybody vote on it? Now, the vote he's talking about, you know, writing your name on a slip of paper, that's not showing up and casting a vote that's going to be recorded for all time in the congressional record. And so it's not a real vote. He was trying to have a pretend vote to placate everybody and say that you could stay home. By the way, Kevin McCarthy wants to be the next speaker, so he wanted to make this as easy as he could on everybody. He was trying to be Santa Claus and say, you can stay home and you don't really have to vote, and we'll pretend like we're voting here, and then we'll tell everybody that's what it is. The problem with Kevin's plan is it didn't satisfy the Constitution. I literally had to tweak the Constitution and shame everybody basically into acknowledging that if you don't have a quorum, you can't pass a bill in Congress. Now, to Mr. King's point, only half of Congress had to show up today to pass this bill. And it didn't delay the bill by even an hour, because I told everybody what my plan was, you know, a day ago, so that they had time to get here.
Yeah, and many of them were not happy about that because of the, warnings against travel. And we had 2 more of your members today who announced that they've tested positive for COVID-19 as well. Okay, listen, you earned yourself the name Mr. No from Politico because you do vote no on so many things. I know that you have your reasons, and we thank you for coming on tonight to talk about them.
Hey,
Congressman Massey, thank you.
Thanks for having me, Shannon.